And Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes in Dan from Buried Tomorrow. Dan, how are you doing?
All good, man. Thank you. As we mentioned kind of before, it's a crazy time, but I'm doing as well as can be.
Right on. Yeah, I seem to be starting all these interviews the same, as excited as I am to talk about music, and I love having new music. It's been a great respite for me to have music to review and listen to and enjoy. Obviously, I hope you, the band, your families, friends are all safe and okay.
Mm.
People are getting sick and dying. Other people are getting hassled by cops, for their right to protest. So it's just an insane year, 2020.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, again, I share the same to your family and your friends. I hope everyone's doing well. But yeah, it's a crazy time, man. Like, it feels like the pandemic is almost a personification of injustice in this world, and and segregation and all sorts of things. I kind of had a weird altruistic kind of look at it the other day, and where I was thinking, like, man, like, some people have felt like this their entire life, so it's a crazy time, man. And I can only hope that we not only address some of the stuff that has gone on in history, and move forward for a better future, but then also look at some of the stuff that's happened, the unifying factors of COVID-19, and look at some of the kind of positives out of the tragedy, and we move forward and kind of, we use that to make us a better future and build us a new thing.
Nice. That's all we can hope for. Do our best and try our best. And you had your record delayed, obviously, because it was supposed to
Yeah.
come out right when this thing hit, and you guys pushed back a few months. One of the bands that had to, you chose to, so the record's coming out this week, which is exciting. But um, any thoughts now that it's a few months later and the album's about to come out about the delay? How do you feel
Mm.
it affected it?
Yeah, I mean, there's two kind of heads on that. I think for me, like, I think everybody, there was a massive naivety that this was all going to blow over in the wind and it was fine and everything was going to be cool. And July seemed a really sensible move at the time. Certainly from April, that's quite a long period of time to kind of think, how's that going to affect it, and whether we're going to be able to play live shows alongside it. And that's all we want to do as a band, man. All we want to do is connect with our fans, play music, record music, put music out like that. We're a metal band. We're bred to do this and do it professionally and hard, and and connect, and the longest period of time, the hardest part of being in a band is actually that period of time, post getting or receiving a record and showing people it. That's always a long time. So the elongated time was even more difficult, obviously, post April to now. Like, it's really difficult, man, and we just want people to hear it and enjoy it like we wanted them to. So would I go back and make the same decision? Maybe not. Maybe I'd release it digitally. But fundamentally and factually, our ethos as a band is we want equity across all of our fans, and a lot of our fans like physical CDs and like physical vinyls, and they wouldn't have been able to receive them in April. That's a fact. So actually, one of the main reasons, contributing factors, that was not only live shows, but also, which hasn't changed, and that's the part where I'm like, meh, okay, we could have released it, but also the fact that distribution companies couldn't actually deliver CDs. So I don't want people to have it digitally or have to go digitally if they actually really like physical CDs. So it's a long wait, but we're here now. We made it, so that's all good.
Nice. And of course, bands still rely on those pre-order bundles, and fans love that stuff. And that's a huge, financially, that's a huge incentive. And there's no shame in that at all, because, obviously there's no chance to go to a show and have a record release show naturally right now and hand it to somebody and get get your euros and hand them back a vinyl and get that signature. And you want to hope that experience will still happen when touring comes back, or just even local shows for you
Oh, who
guys.
knows, man? Like, this could be a crazy time. I was saying to someone the other day, like, we may see this epic, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, this epic resurgence in like live shows, whereas like people just, I mean, imagine right now. So right now, someone goes, let's say Central America, we're going to put on a huge festival. It's going to, take on, or we're allowed to, it's all legal. We're going to put on this huge festival, which is going to go from metal all the way up to pop music. I mean, people would go to it and flock to it and spend money, more money than they would have previously, to go and do that. For me, I'd even go to I'd start to think about how, on a smaller scale, I'd go to local bands. If someone offered me a chance to go to a metal show right now and it was safe to do so, you know, I'd go to it. I wouldn't matter what the band was. And that was where we were at like 20 years ago. You know, that was what people did. You know, we used to go to shows because you go to shows, you see your friends, you'd have a beer, you could hang out, and that was the best bit about live music. And I think we got to a stage where maybe we oversaturated that with all sorts of other stuff, and people kind of started to fall out of love with that. So maybe this is the universe's way of telling us to appreciate getting back into music at grassroots level, for sure.
Indeed. Imagine how off the hook these first shows back are going to be. They're going to be like, we're going to be talking about these for ages. Like, do you remember that first show back, dude? It's going to be crazy.
It's cool, man. It's really nice to have, like, you know, it's a nice timestamp, I think, for people in albeit in tragedy. I think there's a nice timestamp, even releasing a record like we're doing, you know, to be able to say, you know what, we spread a little bit more joy in the world in such a mental time by releasing a record in the metal world, and having a successful metal record as well in such a crazy time. It's just going to be cool.
Indeed. And let's talk a little bit about Cannibal, right? So the first thing that jumped out to me on the first few listens is how tight and great the production on the record is. Not just that the songs all sound great, you guys did a fantastic job, but I love this crisp, tight production. And then obviously that's Dan Weller and the Dream Team a little bit. Talk about working with Dan and, you know, obviously Nolly and Ermin, fantastic at what they do.
Yeah, man. I mean, we had Dan obviously on Black Flame. We've also known Dan Weller for a long time, a long time. He did our first album, Portraits, with his partner in crime at the time, which was Justin Hill, both from the band Sixth, who are a seminal UK band, tech metal as they come. Fantastic band, respect them massively. Dan's a great songwriter in his own right. So it really worked with Black Flame. I think the part that he felt perhaps maybe was not his forte was the kind of mixing side of it. It's not something that Dan overtly loves to do. He loves songwriting. He loves mixing. Well, he loves producing. That's like his love, and making music. So I think the mixing and mastering side was just something that Dan was like not as interested in. So actually on this record, albeit he did a great job with Black Flame, but on this record we kind of knew we were going to kind of farm that part out to someone who that is their forte. That's what they do. They're renowned for it. And Nolly being who he is, and you know, and being an incredibly talented musician in his own right, let alone the seminal metal records that I think, you know, go on 20 years from now, you're going to look back on and go, oh my God, like that production on there stands up the test of time. And I think he's great, you know. And Ermin has worked with Nolly, and it's kind of this cool dream team because every single one of them have worked with each other on projects. So Dan has worked with Nolly loads, and Nolly loves Ermin as far as mastering goes. So it was just a perfect scenario, one that doesn't happen to our band a lot when it comes to getting a perfect scenario that doesn't have its hiccups, and it did. You know, it was amazing. It was really, really cool. And obviously Ermin and Nolly have both done Architects records together, which is a UK band that's you know, you can't not listen to those records and think that they're doing amazing things production wise and songwriting wise as well.
Definitely. I know it's a little old-fashioned notion, but third record for the band, did you guys feel it's always the pivotal, used to be, let's say it isn't always, but it used to be the third record was like, this is the make or break record, this is the pivotal record, your Master of Puppets, your Rain in Blood. So I was going to ask you, did you guys feel after Black Flame, which was very successful, it's only a couple of years later, did you feel like a lot of pressure to step up for this record? Because I can't tell if you did. Like, definitely the songs are, you did, like, I can't tell if you felt the pressure. You definitely, it sounds like you guys definitely, you know, put a concerted effort forward to, you know, rise up over the last one.
It's weird, man, because I think it's really hard to objectively look at progression or like how big you are as a band. Like, it's really hard objectively when you're in it. Like, you know, we just write songs, you know, and the best thing about our band, I truly believe this, is our connection with our fans. Like, you know, we listen and we hear, and what went well, we take the good with the bad, you know, and we've got a really honest relationship with our fans, especially in Europe, because we play there a lot, and having that kind of conversation with them around, like, what did you like? What didn't you like? What would you prefer more of? And that just, it's not only something that kind of creates connections and fans for life, but then it also, and makes them feel heard, but then it also is a smart business move, because they're the people that buy your records. So I've never got this notion of being like, we write an album for ourselves, man. Like, that's what we do. It's like, you don't write it for yourself. If you write it for yourself, you'd be a studio producer and studio songwriter, and that's what you did. But if you're writing it to get bigger, well, then you're not writing it for your band. You're writing for more people. So, you know, there's a weird notion in music. I think people can, and especially musicians, especially metal musicians, can take themselves very, very seriously, and, you know, think about themselves in this ethereal sense of like, you know, what I'm providing to the world, man, is just, oh, you know, it's just something else. I'm on a different level. It's like, dude, you just play metal music. You're playing music because it's hard, it's fast, it ticks the headbanging thing, the circle pit thing, the mosh pits thing. It has, you know, for us, melodic hooks in there that make people want to sing along, bounce along with their best friend around their arms, you know, and that's metal music. That's why I got into metal music. I didn't get into metal music because I wanted to hear how the artist went on this crazy, you know, journey musically to produce a record that inspires them, you know, whatever. Like, for me, it's all about the connection with live settings. So that being said, like, we kind of go in with that ethos every single time we play, or every single time we get into the studio. Yeah, but there's also an aspect of like, I just want to be better than what we were. You know, I want to be better, and I owe it to our fans who like our music to be better next time, you know, and learn from the mistakes we had, and get better at my craft, learn better vocal techniques, learn more consistent vocal techniques, give them better lyrics, better hooks. And so if you keep doing that, I don't think that you always put pressure. No one can put pressure on us like we can put on ourselves when it comes to our individual instruments. So, but the weird thing with Black Flame is that we kind of put that to bed and kind of said all the albums previous to that, we kind of went like, you know, that's for the fans, that was for the fans, that was for the fans. And albeit I've just said it's always about the fans, which it is. This one was quite an, certainly lyrically, and not saying the music, but lyrically, it was a real personal one about the message and thematics of the record around mental health, with my depreciated mental health. Kind of took the pressure off a little bit again, because it was kind of like, well, this is different. So this is your difference of it. So I want to see how people connect with that, you know? So the pressure was more excitement than pressure, I suppose.
Nice. I appreciate you to bringing this up, because I think it's a difficult topic for a lot of people to talk about. You've been very open about it, not just with the music, but in the run up to this album, you've talked very openly and honestly about it. And it's hard. Mental health is still stigmatized by a lot of people, and especially for whatever reason in the past, if you were a man and you said, "Oh, I'm having emotional problems," they're like, it was worse for you to confess and admit that to a friend even that you were having problems. I don't know about you. We were very, Americans were very tight-lipped and, raised under old sort of outdated, ideas of masculinity where we can't say we're having a hard time. So I appreciate that you're, one, using the music as a vehicle to do this, but also like that you're comfortable doing it, because it's hard, man. It's hard to do.
Yeah, man. Like, no doubt. I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy for me. Part of my condition, though, and like, suffering through anxiety and depression, and is actually the cathartic process of discussing or logically working myself through my mental health, and logically putting things into a box or not into a box, not a suppressive box, but more of a so what, don't worry about that kind of thing myself. Part of that, actually, the cathartic process of talking about is really, really healing, but you hit the nail on the head. One of the hardest parts is stepping forward into the light and kind of saying, you know what, I just need some support here. And I think that part of it, over all things, is where they're kind of, you're absolutely right to touch on, men have a higher suicide rate, have a less engagement rate for connecting with mental health or discussing their feelings. And if you were to put out a massive engagement piece worldwide, would probably be significantly depreciated when it comes to actually discussing it with a close family or friend member. So you're right to hit that. But I think that steps down to like that notion, that masculine notion that we have to be the breadwinner, and we have to be tough and strong, and we have to be a rock for our family because we're the breadwinners. It's like, it's just this absolute nonsense, really, when it comes to, when you think, we should be striving for equality in all aspects of the world, and in that we should also introspectively look and go, well, we need support, guys. I need people to help me. I need my wife to support me when it comes to my issues, and my friends to help me, because we all need support, man. It doesn't matter when it is, financial, emotional, you know, everything. We need support for sure.
Well done. And I was saying sort of previously that in terms of lyrically or just the message of the album, it reminded me a lot of the recent Frank Carter record, which is very similar topically. So I'm glad that some of these more major and up and coming artists are talking about these topics and creating a dialogue, not just for fans, but in the world. We need to put it out there in the world that this is okay, and these are okay subjects to talk about it. And I think even metal, we get a bad rep, like, you know, the crazy aspect. Oh, he's crazy, he's a metalhead. Maybe we need to just start like lessening that over time. You can also be a sensitive metalhead. You can be a quiet and introverted metalhead and still love raging music, you know? So
Yeah,
there's nothing
man.
wrong with that.
I think it's just about being kind to ourselves, man. At the end of the day, like, let's just be compassionate to our fellow man, woman. Like, let's just be, you know, be able to care a little bit less about the stigma, support each other a little bit more when it comes to being compassionate listeners. But you're right, you know, Frank's a friend. He's an amazing human being. He's had an amazing career, a crazy career. When you go back over Gallows and what he did with them, and then moving into Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes and all sorts of things. And, you know, he's an advocate for mental health through lived experience. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is that, you know, we're not practitioners. Myself and Frank are not mental health practitioners. We're the first to say it. But what we are is people that have got lived experience that we can then impart. What is our biggest medium to have a conversation? Well, it's our lyrics, you know, and that's what I felt with this album. It's like I've had the conversation with people. I've talked with them at merch. I've sat and done safe space sessions for fans where we've had mental health practitioners there, and I put my money where my mouth is. But really, I've always been inhibited to overtly, you know, get rid of the veil of metaphors and talk about it on the record. So, yeah, this is a great opportunity to kind of cap that off, you know, and kind of say, well, no, I am using it for that as well. So, yeah, it's important.
Nice. And of course, Cannibal itself is so many ways to go metaphorically, right? Life kind of cannibalizes us. We cannibalize ourselves in ways, our time and our resources. And of course, we are also cannibals to this planet. So like so many things to unpack emotionally and, you know, lyrically there.
Yeah, man, of course, you know, and then people always ask me, you know, how did you come up with that? And I think the biggest answer I say is it just makes sense to me. Like, you know, we are self-loathing, unkind, uncivil race of humans, you know, like that. It's what we are, you know, and if we were to follow a light of being kind to a stranger, or follow the light of being indifferent or in, you know, an act of incivility towards a stranger, we'd probably go towards the latter, which is a sad state of affairs, man. Like, it's not all dark. I think, you know, there's an opportunity for us to use not only platforms, but the social media platforms to be able to spread kind of positivity and understanding around mental health, especially. But, you know, we've got a long way to go. So when you think about how can we not eat away at other people and troll lifestyle if we can't actually be kind to ourselves, which is important. You know, you talk about the stigma about, you know, men and masculinity. There's also the stigma about kind of women's self-image and self-image problems, and, you know, body dysmorphic behaviors that we've created ourselves by creating an industry. And it's usually men, if I'm honest. It's usually white straight men. So we're unfortunately, I'm sat there at that higher end of the privilege chain, and, you know, it's usually us that have created that picture, unfortunately. So it's up to us to kind of dismantle that picture as well.
Indeed. And on the positive tip, at least that music can be a unifying force for this, and we can break down these walls and welcome everybody, every orientation, every walk of life. And I have said
Absolutely, man.
repeatedly, we just had sort of, I think it's probably like more like a public relations holiday, but there was a World Music Day, and I used the opportunity to say, you know, if music is a welcome and safe space for everybody, and if it's not, and you see someone making it not be, you need to stop them, whether it's with a word or a fist or whatever the fuck. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not even shy about that shit. Like you know, music has saved my life, and will continue, has clearly saved yours and continue to help others. So I love that you're using your music as a vehicle for this, and again, it's a strong record. It's got a strong message. I hope people really get to hear it and enjoy it despite the delay. And I hope we get at least some local shows back or some events back soon. Things maybe we're opening up too soon. I'm not sure. America's cases in the pandemic are spiking.
UK's not much far behind, my friend. So
Yeah.
we're
I know.
not doing it great.
I know. As we wind this up, I want to be respectful of your time. Does the band have anything planned? Have you guys considered live streaming or anything like that? Is that something you thought about?
So yeah, I mean, we've done a lot over this time. I'm glad we have, because it not only is connecting us as 5 individuals, which is hard because, you know, my brother is in the band, which is easier, but the other guys, you know, Dorse lives up north in the country, and the other 2 guys I haven't really seen over this entire time. So we connect as a band, which we've done quizzes and lives and all sorts of things, as people have done. But on Friday, we're going to be live streaming off Kerrang's platform, which is going to be fun. So we get to talk to fans and discuss it. And then honestly, man, as soon as we are able to, and that is like seriously talking about, as soon as we are able to tour, we will be touring. We're going to damn tools and make sure that we get there and do what we love to do, which is play shows for people. So, and also, as we mentioned before, like, how epic are those shows going to be? So why would I not like do everything I can to make that happen? But I just want to make sure that we are socially responsible to all people, the virus itself, giving it its due concern, I think, which is really important. And I think a lot of governments probably should have done the same, but it is what it is. Political views aside, I think, you know, it's really positive, because I think it unifies us with music, with the world, with this virus, with everything. I'm really hoping that we can kind of transition into this new phase of life as we know it, and kind of take all the positives from such a tragic time.
Well said. I can add nothing better than that. Dan, thank you so much for your time and talking about not the easiest things to discuss, but super pumped about Cannibal, Music for Nations, also Sony Records, Imprint. And congrats on the record. And I hope we get to see you stateside, or we have lots of people out in Europe and the UK. I hope we'll cover you more in the future and hear more from you and your voice. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Peace. Thanks so much.
Thank you, brother. See you later.